It was another significant moment for the Institute of Directors. Nigeria, the foremost institution responsible for the advocacy and development of corporate governance practices in the country, as it witnessed a change in leadership. Dignitaries, past president, and members of the institute gathered at the Lagos Oriental Hotel for the inauguration of Dr. Ije Jidenma, F.IoD, as the 17th president of the IoD Nigeria. In his opening remarks, the chairman of the occasion, Mr. Muhammad K. Ahmad, OON, M.IoD, congratulated the new president and charged her on outlining key priorities that will form the thrust of her tenure.
I hope, Mr. President, incoming president, in the next 2 years, you will come up with not more than 3 or maximum 5 issues that you want to achieve. You must have a clearly defined goals. Don't go and get consumed by routine issues. Sit back. Of course, you've been part of the council, which is an excellent transition process, but you are now in charge. And being in charge, you must have your own framework, and you must also clearly make an impact. The most important thing is that what outcomes do you want to achieve? And to what extent can you get those outcomes clearly defined? And they will impact not only on members, but of course on Nigeria as a society, whether in private sector or in public sector. Most of us have that title, and we're able to sign off accounts. When you sign off an account, what that means is that you are committing, not just yourself, but you are committing the Institute of Directors that what you signed represent the true and fair view, in spite of the fact that it was done by KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, Deloitte, or EY. It is an extremely important thing. So it's a privilege to be a member, but at the same time, it's a privilege to ensure that we protect our interests.
Keynote speaker at the event and chairman of the board of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, Mr. Asue Ighodalo, believed the private sector needs to properly engage with the political class to shape policies in the country.
Firstly, I commend the IoD for its role in continuously improving and uplifting the capacity of directors of corporate entities in Nigeria, and in promoting sound business ethics, efficient management practices, and good corporate governance. The IoD has contributed immensely to the upgrade of the competencies and capacities of leaders in governance. The success achieved by our high-performing companies, despite the headwinds in a difficult environment, is attributable to the quality of leadership in these organizations. Good corporate governance is critical for the growth, sustenance, and survival of corporate entities in today's increasingly complex and turbulent world. Well-governed entities become successful entities. Such entities have on their boards men and women who have integrity, capacity, vision, men and women who work hard, who are diligent, who are focused, who are empathic, disciplined, and have the ability to think creatively and strategically. The experience of all socially stable countries that have achieved competitive and advanced economies confirm the following 3 facts. 1, leadership plays the central role in good governance. There cannot be good governance without purposeful, focused, visionary, competent, hardworking, and empathic leadership. 2, good corporate governance is imperative for driving sustainable enterprises and is critical to the survival of business entities. And 3, an aggregate of well-governed, successful corporate organizations catalyze national economic growth. In Nigeria, our private sector accounts for about 87% of our economy. And the formal private sector, to which all of you in this room belong, constitutes about 55% of the private sector contribution to our economy. So, in theory, a disciplined private sector that speaks with one voice in the best interest of Nigeria's economic and social development should propel a positive growth trajectory for our country. Nigerian private sector leaders must strategically rethink our scope and strive harder to influence the emergence and sustenance of competent political leadership. We must, by constant and consistent engagement and commentary, eliminate the disjuncture between political leaders and business leaders and align our interests for the good of our country. The private sector has to convince our political leaders of the existential imperative of achieving high economic growth rates. If, despite the difficulties, we achieve a thriving private sector, active in all areas of the economy, including the emerging digital, arts, technology, and creative arts sectors, we will grow out of our ethnic, religious, sectarian, tribal, and security tensions. We will grow out of it. We must push for quick, inclusive growth that ensures that the majority of our people have a stake in the economy, are gainfully employed, own property, and can see a bright future for their children. We private sector leaders must lead and govern our companies better and more creatively to ensure that regardless the odds or the dodgy quality of manpower that we have or the insecurities, we can still create a thriving private sector that lifts our economy. It's doable. We have a Herculean task, but it's surmountable. The public and private sectors now need to be convinced that the individual and group benefits attained from rent seeking and strategic misgovernance at different levels have caused near irreparable damage to the Nigerian state, and the near-term consequences of this damage may consume all of us. We're running out of time.
In her acceptance speech as the 17th president of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria, she assured stakeholders that she will lead the IoD Nigeria to greater heights professionally.
IoD in transition needs to be future ready. Future readiness is therefore the underlying philosophy of my tenure, which will be hinged on 5 pillars. First of the pillars is inclusiveness. This addresses the private-public sector partnership. We will work together to strengthen the public-private sector policy engagements and interactions in the broader national interest, as earlier espoused by our guest speaker from Nigeria Economic Summit Group. If this is achieved, it will reduce the tendency for policy imposition from the top, thereby creating an enabling environment for participatory policy making involving all stakeholders. We intend to deliberately reach out, again, in our quest for inclusiveness, young directors, and bring them into the fold of the IoD family or pipeline through well-targeted means, such as our Young Directors Forum, mentoring schemes, and so on. IoD is for all directors, experienced, aspiring, and even the new ones. We will provide a great platform for cross-fertilization of ideas, mentorship, and what is even now termed reverse mentorship, because we have to also learn from the young ones. We will work to grow and develop and expand our membership networks beyond Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Abeokuta. Our focus is to ensure that the impact of the Institute is felt outside our commercial and political capitals. In order to meet the objective of using director development and corporate governance as veritable vehicles for national development, apart from targeting entrepreneurial clusters in the country, we also hope to work towards extending our reach and contributions to the African continent and beyond that through research, knowledge sharing, and thought leadership pieces from the IoD Center for Corporate Governance. The next pillar is the chartership of the Institute. The professionalization of the practice of directorship is one of our top priorities. We intend to achieve this through the chartership of our institute. This is a matter we must strive to conclude. The good news is that the bill for the chartership has successfully passed through the Senate. It has also passed through the first reading at the House of Representatives and is awaiting the second reading and concurrence. Our aim is to see that we proceed to the final phase and as soon as possible by getting the assent of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I remain grateful to our hard-working team that has made this possible. The charter status will enable us to standardize capacity building, training, and director development for our members and other directors who are interested to avail of our services through digital access. Various stages of certifications will align with the standards obtainable in other parts of the world, such as IoD UK, but we focus on the local environmental challenges through our case studies and unique practical portfolios. The uniform capacity building and up-to-date programs for carefully and systematically selected faculty members will further validate the world-class standard of our products, which we feed top-level practitioners to our industries, organizations, institutions, and governments. The IoD House project is one of our sustainability pillars. Getting the IoD House project to quickly and appropriately take off is one of our greatest objectives. We are actually working around the clock to put the appropriate governance structures in place to ensure that the project succeeds.
Mr. Muhammad K. Ahmad, Mr. Asue Ighodalo, and Dr. Ije Jidenma speak further on the strategy, way forward, and key pillars for the advancement of IoD Nigeria.
I think it's just a matter of strategy. This is a very old institute with a very large network of members, and given the right environment and the right leadership, they should be able to focus on ensuring both in the private and the public sector governance standards are improved. And as you are aware, corporate governance is about behavior, and therefore it's not a journey of 1 mile. But it's just a process, and I believe the institute is up to the task.
I think we all have the same goal for this country. We all want a better country, we want a great country, we want a first world country. It's just that we're using different mechanics to get to the same goal, and we need to come together and work together. The private sector and the public sector work as one. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group is championing this process, and I know that in partnership with the IoD, with NECA, with MAN, with LCCI, we should be able to do a much better job and get the public sector to collaborate with us. It's fundamental. There's no other way, because the capital that we require for the extensive infrastructure that we require is only going to come from the private sector, nowhere else.
As you rightly heard, part of my focus is on private sector, public sector partnership. And in so doing, we are going to support the public sector in its quest for making good policies through our advocacies, in areas that need to be addressed. Through our research findings, we will support what we find, and so that they would hinge their policies in things that can be actually examined and supported by facts. And as you also know, for IoD, we are involved in capacity building and director development. So it's not today. We've been equipping directors in public sector with skills that they need.
With the new president at the helm of affairs in IoD Nigeria, it is expected that the advocacy for corporate governance will intensify with inclusiveness, digital transformation, and high-level professionalism, and a significant step in the actualization of the chartership of the institute.